Today we're excited to have Coach Datodrick Pinkston from Forest High School with us today. I've known him and his family for a lot of years. And so Datodrick, knowing that I know where you've come from and who you are and the people that have influenced your life, but if you don't mind, introduce yourself and give us a little information about your basketball background.
Oh, yeah. So I'm Datodrick Pinkston. Family mainly known for football, but I was kind of the difference maker that took the basketball route. So pretty athletic family. And to get to this point, I was the only one. I was like, look, I'm not going to take the football route. You know, I'm going to change. I'm going to be different and create my own lane. So that's kind of what I did. And once I took this route, I mean, ever since then, it was just smooth sailing. So I didn't play football coming up through high school. I just played basketball only. And it took me to a lot of different places. You know, it took me to Belhaven University, where I played 4 years of college ball. So, and also during that time, I got a chance to just experience like different parts of the world, different states, and different colleges. And with Belhaven being an NAIA school, it kind of opened my mind up to like smaller schools are tough as well. You know, I think every level of basketball is competitive, whether it's junior college, whether it's Division III. Division two, Division one, NAIA, it's all competitive basketball across the board. And I think that was the biggest thing that opened my eyes. Because, you know, everybody as a kid want to go, hey, Division one, Division one.
Right.
And JUCO is just as tough as Division one. NAIA is just as tough. So that kind of helped me broaden my mindset of how I view basketball, just to understand that every level is tough, every level is important, every level is just as competitive as the highest level. So it kind of helped expand my mind and bring me deeper into the basketball world.
Okay. Real quick, who, and I say real quick because you could probably talk about him for days and days, but who inspired you in the basketball coaching realm, and why? When did that interest for coaching come in?
My grandpa, Roy Pinkston, you know, he was a coach at Forest High School as well. Only two boys championships in history in 2007, and I was also part of the 2010 team. So that was a big blessing upon itself, you know, to have your grandpa coach you in that and also win a state championship in that entire process. And so at first, when I first hit college, I really wasn't inspired to like be a coach. It wasn't until after my freshman year, I had a best friend in college. His name was Jared Dawson. He was recently coaching at Morton. Now he's like the principal at Provine. And me and him was like real close. And he kind of gave me that extra push to go into it. And once, you know, me and him talked and I sat down, I was like, look, man, that's something that I really want to do. And so I just started gathering information up, you know, from my grandpa who was retired at the time. So he kind of helped teach me the ropes and kind of helped me inspire me to kind of just go ahead and get it done and follow in the footsteps that he was in. So, and that was also a big inspiration, you know, seeing what he did and what he brought to, you know, small town Forest, and just want to get back and do at least half of what he did. I'm probably not to the point to do everything that he did. I'm hoping I do, but at least being half of the coach and the man he was is honestly good enough for me, because he did a lot for not only us as players, man, just us as the community. You know, everybody know him around here, well-known name in the county as well. So he was inducted into the Scott County Hall of Fame.
That's great.
So that kind of inspired me. My grandpa and Coach Dawson was my best friend. So that kind of helped me, just inspire me to get into the coaching field.
I was wanting to talk to you, and this may be something we have to revisit later in the year, but something you've done that I've watched from a distance is resurrect the youth league there in Forest. And it is incredible. The team sponsorships, the end of the year banquet, you got some nice uniforms now. And I love to see that because I was able to be a part of that when I was coaching there. But how important is that to you, and where do you think that falls in the development? And I know for you it's as much community as it is for basketball.
Correct. And The biggest reason that I end up bringing it back because that was something like you stated that you was around when you was around here at the time, and I grew up playing, you know, the sport of basketball at an early age. You know, from now till I got from that age till I got to middle school basketball, and it's important with development, with it being because you actually get to learn the game of basketball at a young age. It's early as kindergarten and it helps development because every year, you know, you grow, you develop, your mind expand, and it helps you understand the game, and it also helps you fall in love with the game. You know, at a younger age, that's what I did. I fell in love with the game of basketball, and that's only because I started when I was younger. And so, with that being said, bringing that back was very important because it was gone for some years. I mean, 15, maybe 10 to 15 plus years. It just went away. And so you started to see um, huge talent gaps in between that when that started happening. And so the program started taking a hit around that time. And that program is it's not a 1 year program, you know, it's more of a 5, 6, 7 year program on down the line. You will see that like when they get to middle school, then when they get to high school. So it was gone for 15 plus years. And I just had to kind of just get my head together and realize like that's what's been missing. You know, you look at these other bigger schools and bigger cities, they started young. You know, they start kindergarten, first grade, second grade. You know, they start traveling at a younger age. So that's just something that I want to bring back because of that's how the championships were brought in. You know, that's how the talent level was brought in. That's how you develop your kids, and you also get community people involved, and it keeps your kids here. You know,
Mhm.
so when you don't have nothing for the youth to do, then how you gonna keep parents here? It's hard.
That's true.
You know, they'll quickly leave the school and like, well, there's nothing for the youth to do. I mean, it's just nothing. So bringing that back gives them something to do, and it also gives them hope. Like, look, my child can actually do something and grow something, even in a small town that we're in. So it also helped bring light back to our small town. We're not the biggest town, so
Mhm.
getting kids involved in something keeps the parents engaged and it keeps the kids engaged. And every year we just keep growing. My first year we started off with like 100 kids. That was 2 years ago, and just this past year we got to like 130 kids.
Wow.
So only year two. So we're going into year three, this upcoming year, and I expect the numbers just to keep growing and growing and growing, and the kids to keep developing, getting better and better and better. And then in the long haul, you will see the results in the long haul. You know, you may not see them right now.
Mhm.
So, and that's how my granddad was. The results came later on with
Right.
2007 and then 2010 with us. That's when the results came. You know, everybody misses the early development stage. You know, everybody just look at seventh grade. No, it starts before seventh grade.
Mhm.
You know, so
Mhm.
that was a big impactful thing that had to be brought back. And I really appreciate my administration and superintendent all for allowing me to bring that back. Honestly, it was a big thing for just the community and giving me a reason to kind of want to stay home and grow and build back home.
And I'll tell you, that's a huge endeavor for a young coach. And the mindset that you just mentioned of understanding this is not going to show next year or it won't show next year. Although your numbers have increased, that's great. But as far as most coaches want to get some talent out of it. They want to develop some players and they want them now in this, instant society. So what is it about you as a young coach
Mhm.
that understands, look, this is going to take some time, but it will pay off?
What helps me understand that I went through the ringers my freshman year in high school and college. So you have to sit back and watch, sitting on the bench and watching these guys that are better than me. And it kind of made me like I didn't play to my junior year in high school, and that kind of gave me a sense of it's gonna be times, you have to be patient, even in college. I played a little bit my freshman year, but my sophomore year, that's when I really just turned the switch on and kind of played a little more in my junior year. So I didn't I didn't see what I was doing my freshman year. I understood like, look, it's just time. It takes time to do these things. And also me having to go through that ringer, went through the whole program of youth league that we had going on to see the end results was the championship. And I don't know, I was just, my grandpa he just lied about just being patient with a lot of things, you know. Like you said, a lot of people want to just win now. I mean, it don't always work like that. So, and then most coaches young coaches are quick to just get out of it, you know, be like, oh, that ain't for them. But I always had the mindset of, I can't run from something if I'm not trying to fix it or do nothing about it.
Right.
You just can't call it quits, and then I'm not doing anything to progress and do better, you know. So I think a lot of life lessons taught me to just be patient and understand that it's gonna be a time, you know, it's gonna be a breaking point. Everybody has a breaking point, everybody has a breakthrough, and just gotta be patient with it. You know?
Right. And I think there's so many things we can learn from the game of basketball. And most of us that coach played. And so if we would take our own lessons like you did, you can kind of apply it to where you are in the coaching realm. And it's in cycles, you know, talent's in cycles. And if you can start something like that league, then obviously it's going to help close the gaps a little closer together. So they're not as few as far between. So I think that's incredible. And I definitely want to get back to you extensively and talk about that league, because I think another thing the younger generation doesn't always get is they've probably played in one, or, you know, and they've seen it done, but they don't always understand how to do it. So we might have a long talk with you about what are some things to help somebody get that up started.
Okay.
So,
I've helped numerous. I mean, I've had several coaches to contact me about it. And got back with them, and they've done some things as well with it. I don't mind.
So that's great. Like I said, I've been following your pictures on Facebook, and that banquet, boy, that's better than some high school end of season banquets. That was impressive. So
our sponsors, I thank all our sponsors for that. That was big. The community really rallied behind that program. You know?
Yeah. What do you do to stay updated on current coaching trends, rule changes, just maybe when you go looking for something to do different, whether it's in your practice or a game strategy? What do you look to?
I look at other coaches that have had success over the years, and it's crazy. It's a good question, because even when I was a player, it's coaches that I kind of paid attention to while I was playing. And the crazy thing is, they was coaching still when I got in the coaching field. So just a few names. A guy, Darren Gray. You know, he's still coaching now. At the time, he was at Scott Central, which he's back at Scott Central.
Oh wow!
He was a player. He was a coach coaching against me. You know, against my granddad while I was playing. And a lot of stuff that he did, I kind of picked up on and paid attention, see if I need to implement. And another person, Coach Crandall Porter. You know, he's at Newton right now. He was a coach at Newton while I was playing here in Falls. So a lot of stuff that he kind of did, I kind of looked at and picked up on. And, you know, I just kind of, as a player, I kind of started catching on the stuff then. You know, and it's crazy because the success, you know, those two, I'm just speaking on those two that they coached against me. The success they have had, they're still having pretty good success along, you know, you're talking about 15 years ago. You know, 12 years ago while I was playing, and still having that same success. So a lot of stuff that they were doing, you know, I kind of picked up on too and add now. So that's just like per player. You know, when I was a player, that stuff I picked on. But as of recently now, you know, still watching those guys, guys that have won like multiple championships, like Coach Tadlock, you know, he's at Raymond right now. Anthony Carlisle, those type of coaches that have kind of won, like Greg Carter, who's a native of ours, you know. Just watching their programs and how they do things from a distance, you know, not up close and personal, but just to admire those things and see what they do in games and how they do different things, and just keeping up with the trend. You know, those are a lot of coaches that I name, all been, you know, successful, all have won state championships in the state of Mississippi. And like I said, it's just a few names that I can kind of get out there that just come off the top of my head that I've kind of watched from afar. like I said, not up close and just person. And so, and then with social media, social media it's so much that you can kind of, so much that you can kind of like grasp. So I think as coaches now, it's a lot easier for us as coaches because we got so much access to social media. To where back then it wasn't, you had to, man, you had to go to all these
Mm-mm.
clinics, you had to where now click on a button and you got a clinic, what somebody
Right.
talk. So that's what kind of helps out going to different clinics, and then also just communicate with coaches. You don't communicate with all of them, but just to try to, when you do see them in person, just try to pick their brain apart. Talk to them, like in pregame, before pregame, just ask them, there's so many questions. So that's kind of some people I watch from afar, some people I got kind of close with, and start asking questions. So I think the that aspect of it has been good for me. And also, you have to market yourself as well as a coach. You have to put yourself out there as well. Whether you going to, whether you sending your kids over the summer. We go to a few of the college shootouts and stuff like that, just to get those kids that experience. You just have to be up to date. It's too much information out here, not to be up to date. So those are some of the people that I kind of watch from afar. And also, like I said, internet, a lot of resources. It's just so much, man. They got books, they got DVDs, and that's kind of how I keep myself up to date. And I kind of watch a lot of college more than NBA. And I look at songs like, man, that's nice. That's something maybe I can implement. Now as coaches, we try to implement almost everything, but if you don't got the personnel to implement what they have, you can't do it. So that'll be the biggest advice. Yes, soak in everything. So that way, when you do have a group that comes in that's real good, that's real dominant, and you can implement those things, you do it. Because most people try to take what they learn and just say, I'm going to do this for my team. Well, if you don't got that personnel, you're not going to do what that coach does. So that's I think that's been the biggest thing, just watching all these coaches do what they do and build their program the way they do. Kind of admiring, inspiring to me, because eventually everybody had their time, if they continue to do it the right way, and I truly believe it.
Well, look, I pick brains as anybody I can, but I'm gonna tell them I'm a sucker for a good out of bounds play under the basket. Everybody that I talk to, I want to know. Like, obviously, I've scouted them if it's somebody we're playing, and I've been known to steal their plays, but I do name it after them at least, so I give them credit for it. But is there one thing, like, if you really want, is there like, what is there something that just, if you could talk to any coach about it, what's something you'd want to pull from them?
If there was one thing, that was a good question. Are we speaking basketball terms or just anything?
Whatever you think.
Honestly, how to keep a how do you keep the culture? I think that would be the biggest thing, because when you've seen successful coaches, they've had a culture of doing stuff the way they do, and how to keep the kids into that culture. you know. And I think the start, like I said, with the league is a start for me. Is to buy in to my culture, and then just to ask a coach that don't have that, how I think culture building is real important, because everybody knows when you hear like a certain name or a certain coach or a certain team, it's like, okay, we know what they're about. We used to hear Forge, like, man, Forge is loaded with, especially football. We've had people to go to NFL. We had a bunch of people to go to Division I and all that. And, basketball came around at a later time, but it was still good in both. So I think just getting back to the culture building when it slowly went away, how can you do it? So it'll be more so on that level rather than, just.
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking about basketball on the court, I would honestly say, I will honestly probably go into. I'm a defensive guy, so
Mhm.
mainly a defense game, man. How do you get your guys ready to buy into that scheme of what you're trying to do? Because that's one of the hardest things for like guys for sure to buy in on the defensive end. It's a challenge to get guys to do it. It's not hard, but it's more challenging than getting them ready to play offense because that's most of the time that's what they're ready
They
to do.
want to score. That's
But
not an issue.
so that'll probably be it if it was on the court.
Let's go to a little bit more of practice. Do you kind of have a typical practice outline and the structure for your training sessions? I know we've just finished preseason, so you're getting ramped up here. But what does a typical practice look like for you as far as player development into your team sessions?
Yes. We try to start off practice. Once we get dive into it, start off with small, just skill development. Just because you don't want to waste so much time on skill development. Even preseason, you do conditioning, and then do a little bit of skill development. But preseason is a time to where you see what guys that you can run off. Basically, most coaches kind of see like who gonna go to war with me. Can I trust you when the season starts? So, like preseason, that's kind of how it is. You try to see what guys you can run off who's gonna stick with you. But lately, like the past couple of years, it's been different for me preseason, just because I have so many football players, and I've had to adjust to that. Normally my first couple of years, I have about 12, 13 guys in the gym. Now numbers are slimming to like 7, 8. So it's been different for me just because of numbers. Most other schools, some of the other schools don't really have as many football guys, but I have 15 football guys. So
Wow.
a typical practice for me sometimes is very narrow, and we do skill development. We do break down in some defensive things and um, or a little bit of offense, not too much, but secondary breaking stuff like that because you only limited to what you can do. So I had to kind of revamp how I approach practice now, just because of that reason. We're getting ready to start a jamboree game playing 7 guys, 8 guys.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's been kind of a challenge for me. I think that's been my biggest challenge since I've been in far as that aspect of transitioning from 13 guys in the gym to 7 or 8. So practice had to be a lot different. So skill development and conditioning has been most of our preseason, and also several new faces that I have want starting to slowly implement what I want, on the offensive end. That happens a lot when you get a few new kids that ain't you never coached. So like as of right now, we're slowly getting ready to transition to original practice. But prior to preseason, it's been weights, it's been conditioning, it's been skill development. So all those are the three main components that's been going on in the preseason. So and I do have a practice plan that I go by every day, and based on where we're at, helps me whether do I need to extend this for next week or the week after that. So if like we start off weight slow and we still need to build muscle mass, then we're gonna continue to go weights. Then when I feel like we did enough in our weight aspect of it, then we can add on. Let's do more skill development. Then let's skill development is a little down. Let's continue skill development. So it's solely based off the player's growth and the player development. And with 7 or 8 kids, there's more reps they can get in.
Well, you have to be creative for
Yeah,
sure.
it's very creative. It's hard to get. I mean, when you're doing shell, you got 3-man shell. So, I mean, most of the offense is naked offense. You can rarely run it against any type of defense because you don't have enough kids in there. So,
Right.
and that's been my biggest adjustment is transitioning from having 12, 13 guys to let's do a full practice to, man, we got to do this, in order to get where we get
You're
to.
making up 3-on-3 drills. You got
We're making drills. I mean, having drills that's limited with kids. So I think that's been the adjustment for this season. Just having to break down practice in a different way than I never had to. I think this year has been probably this year and last year was been kind of the 2 seasons that I've had less
All right.
kids.
So you mentioned and again, I don't have to consider this as a girls basketball coach, but that on any given year, your roster changes from the number that you have for preseason because of football. So,
Right.
what is it that you would tell a new young coach that probably hasn't thought about that either? They're coming in ready to go, think they're going to have all their guys, and how you work that relationship with your football coach in regards to those players.
Honestly, that's your football coach should be kind of your best friend. It don't always work out that way, but for the most part, those football coaches need to be your best friend. Reason being because they're gonna always need you. You're gonna always need them at the end of the day. So I would just tell a young coach that's coming in, um, sometimes don't fight that battle. Just because you don't want to burn bridges with a football coach that you may need or he may need you, then it becomes a tug of war. Like, oh, this player, that player. Nah, I mean, I tell all my kids, man, if you want to play football, play football. And the reason I tell them that is because I don't want to ruin your chances of having to play. You may get a scholarship in football before basketball, so I don't want to limit what you can do. It's up to me to play all sports. That's just my own personal opinion.
Right.
But I feel like as a young coach, just communicate. They don't have to be best friends, but make sure y'all in some type of communication on sharing these athletes. Me and our football coach do a real good job of communicating with each other. Whether it's summertime, I would say, Coach, we're gonna play this day in the morning. You make them get the football this day, this way. Let me get them just for this, or they can come. So we do a good job. I know several times during the summer we had a summer game and they had workouts that evening. So I dropped the kids off on the bus, at the field house. So just because of it's just so many. So I never just tell a kid to not to go play. So as a young coach, that's just something that you have to kind of just learn how to work with the football coach on that. Like I said, it is difficult at times just because as a coach, you're a basketball. You want all of them to just be in the gym, but it don't work like that most of the time, especially with your smaller schools. Um, you're gonna share a lot of athletes, and in some schools that don't. Some coaches get the privilege to have 2, 3 guys to play football. It just depending on where you at and what area you in, to kind of get there. So that's what, as a young coach coming in, you need to kind of know that before you even just to accept the job. Like, yeah, I want all basketball players. No, you need to know, and honestly, that's something that's kind of transpired over the years. Because I know, honestly, when I was in school, we probably had like four or five football kids. To where now it's turning to 10, 15. So
Right.
that's just something that transpired over the years to where my granddad was coaching and we had 14, 15 kids in the gym. So we was able to
Mhm.
do everything that we just need to be done. So I would just tell a young coach, man, if just before you even accept it, just know what you're getting into and try to work with that coach the best way possible. Sometimes you are gonna bump it. It's gonna happen. Trust me, it's gonna happen. For the most part, just try to get over that bumping heads and do what's best for that kid. At the end of the day, we have to think about the kid and not our own personal egos as a coach. Kid first, our egos later. So that's what I would tell a young coach, man. Think about the kid.
I like that, and I think, but I don't see why the adults in that situation
Yeah.
don't put a kid in a bad situation.
Don't make them choose.
Right.
I hate. I dislike for coaches to make kids choose a sport. Like, if you go here, you don't do it. I hate that. That's one of the biggest. That's one of the biggest things I hate if coaches do that. Like I said, not all coaches do it. You have some that do, but I'm not one of those ones to do that.
And I think that is a valuable lesson that, like you said, some young coaches that just come boistering in there, they got to realize that's one hurdle that's not going away.
Yeah, there's not. It's gonna forever be. It's gonna forever be around.
Yeah. Let's talk about game prep. One of the other things I absolutely love to do is scout and prepare game strategies. And I was fortunate to again learn that from Coach Skelton. And how important is that to you, and what approach do you take?
Um, I'm pretty much, I like to visually see it. I know a lot of coaches now. We all use Huddle. We all send film. We all exchange film and stuff like that. Um, that's fine. I don't mind it, but I like to get up and close in person because film do lie. You know, you may have a film to where, I mean, that kid had a bad game, you know. But if you can visually see that person in a game that you can catch rather than a film, shoot, that kid may be their best player. It may just had a bad game. So
Right.
I like to visually go see, you know, a team myself. I mean, like I said, film is fine. Everybody gets film. Film helps out as well. But me personally, I like to visually go check it out. And if I can't, then I revert to film. So I would definitely like to see it in person, more than anything, just because me as a coach, I get a better being an athlete playing at on the college level as well. I just grasp things better by visually watching it, you know, in person rather than film. You know, sometimes sitting down watching film, you may get sidetracked, you know, but when you're visually watching that in that game, it's kind of a different feel, you know. So I think that's my own personal perspective. I rather sit in person. And then with high school kids, you don't want to overdo it with, you know, scouting report and all that different things. Just because mentally sometimes they may not grasp everything. You don't want to throw too much at them. That's one thing I've had to learn with high school kids, and I think that was my biggest transition, coach, is from college level to playing on the college level, learning the scout report to coming down to high school. I mean, in college, your scout report is so detailed out. I mean, it got player name, it got player number, it got weaknesses, it got strengths, it got shooting percentages from the mid range, it got shooting percentages from threes, it got that whole player breakdown, and you talking about almost. I mean, they go deep as 9 sometimes. They go deep to 1 to 9, sometimes 8. So you're looking at all that information, and college, you can kind of grasp that a lot more. High school kids, you know, they can't do that. You can't, you can't have that much detail in the space. They just not. And so that's one thing I learned early coming out. Like, look, I can't detail um, and do a scout report like that. You know, it has to be very small detail, and it also has to fit what we do. You know, as a system and as a scheme. Because if you try to do all this tweaking and add extra to them, that's just more you're gonna put on the kids. So try to keep it as simple as possible. You know, when you're going into detail about scouting report and then scouting the team. And so what I like to do when I scout a team, I like to see what they like to do a lot. You know, is a team that plays fast. Do they play slow and methodical? Do they like to control the pace? Defensively, do they like to get up in you? Do they lay back? Are they gonna let you run your stuff? You know, so those are things that I kind of keep an eye on to kind of help my guys understand and grasp what we need to do in order to be effective. And a lot of coaches do the same thing as well. You know, some coaches pick out personnel. You know, and I look at personnel. What kid can do this? What kid can do that? What player can do this? And so, but like I said, it has to be simple. You know, it can't be complex. And I had to change that. I had to change that approach quickly from from college to going down to high school level of scouting and going over reports and what we need to do.
I think that's a good point that you bring up for coaches too. Is like I said, I love to scout, and I can get it down to I know what the coach is going to do for the he knows. I mean, I just love doing that. That's my own little inner game inside the game. But I have learned through the years. I have teams that it just, like you said, it blows their minds. And so I think what you were saying as far as we can't over prep
Yeah,
for something they're going to do that takes away from what we need to do and who we are as a team.
yeah, correct.
So I totally understand what you're saying there and have made that same mistake.
I made that mistake early, and I've learned a lot from it. You know, I had to contact a few college coaches. I know we had back-to-back games, and I had contact one of the college coaches, like, man, what would you do in this situation? Like, look, just keep it simple as possible. Do what y'all do, and don't overdo it. And so I had to learn that a lot. It took me about 2 years to kind of understand, to dumb down,
Yeah.
report.
Well, and I think Coach Skelton always told me, in learning through it, is when people scouted us, especially, she was like, they may know what we're gonna do, but that
You
doesn't mean they can stop it.
gotta stop it. You gotta stop it. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. So, like I said, that's the intricacies of the game that I just love. But like I said, it doesn't always benefit. It's good for me to know it as a coach, but I
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to put that on my players because I can make the adjustments without bogging their brain down.
Yeah.
Coach, I want to share with you a quick video from Gino Auriemma. Of course, that's a prominent women's basketball coach, but I think no matter men's, women's, you can't deny his success, and he's the champion in his sport. And so I kind of want to get your take on as a response to this video. So let me share that with you.
I've never been afraid to coach my best player. And if they want to leave, then leave. And if a kid wants to quit, I'd rather they quit in November than in March. So I'm going to find out exactly what this kid's made of. And I've had kids come to me and say, Coach, I want to win a national championship. I want to be an All-American. I want to play on the Olympic team. Well, that used to be in college, women's basketball especially, the three things that you had as your goals. Now, everybody wants to play in the WNBA or play overseas, whatever they want to do. So I had one kid, especially in her sophomore year, I called her in the office and I said, remember what you told me? And she said, yeah. So it's not going to happen. I said, it's not going to happen. Watching you for 2 years here, it's not going to happen. So here's your choices. Change your goals or change your work habits. One of those two things. If you want to keep your goals, then you need to change. So what's it going to be?
So what you think, Coach?
Great philosophy. One thing that stood out to me in that video is honesty. He was honest with his players, and I think that's kind of the number one thing that you have to do once you get a relationship with them is be honest with them. You don't want to lie to them and sell them false hopes about something that they can obtain and achieve. And if they're not putting in the work to actually do that, then what he said is right. You either change your goals or change your work habits. And so I think with today's kids, you have to be real firm on that, because most of the time kids now don't believe what they coach tell them. So if you're feeding them false dreams and false hopes and they're not putting in the work to actually achieve those dreams and goals, then it's only hurt the kid. So I think coming from that video, I think him being honest with his players is the biggest that I pulled from that video. And I think his philosophy is as good as it is. I mean, he's been very successful as a coach. So it's working for him to be brutally honest with his players about anything. So, and also he have them to set their own goals as well. Instead of him setting goals for them, he have them to set their goals. And I mean, he's going to do what it takes to get them to that goal, but they have to do that part as well. So I think him being honest is very key to coaching and with part of your philosophy, and it allows players to trust you in that process.
Let me go back to what he said in the very beginning. Just knowing kids, how players are these days. He said, I'm not afraid to coach my players hard. What do you think about that at this day and time?
It's a challenge, but also it's very recommended because you have to coach your best players, in my opinion. Your best players have to be coached harder than anybody on the team. Just because of the expectations, and then if your best players are being coached hard, and everybody else are simply so you can't be afraid to challenge your best players just because you may be afraid they may quit anything or something like that. So that's definitely a true statement. because you kind of find out who your kids are.
Mhm.
Like you said, I'd rather you quit in November than in March. So you rather it to happen early, challenge them early, and see what buttons you can push. But you definitely need to coach your best players harder than anybody on the team, because everybody else will fall in line. Once you get those guys in line, everybody will follow.
Your words of advice to the new generation, the young coaches stepping into this profession. What are some things that you would say, or maybe you wish you had known?
Just be patient. When you're an assistant coach, soak up as much as you can. Soak up as much as you can. Why that person that's above you get out? I'm talking about just anything. Bug them to death, going to where they're tired of you. So, because one thing I had to learn is like it's a lot more coaches out there that are better than you, and just because you played college don't mean you still know more than coaches that been coaching it for 15, 20 years that probably never touched the college ball. That don't mean anything. So as a young coach, don't think just because you got those years on the court in college don't mean you're going to have that experience as a coach. So soak up as much as you can from your head coach, soak up as much as you can from people that you don't even know or you want to know. Just get all the information in as much as possible. And that's just something that you have to do. Just be a sponge. Mainly be a sponge, and don't think you're ready when you're really not. So I thought I was. After 1 year of the system, I'm ready. And man, got my head beat in, got some humbling pie early. And it kind of helped me out. And I'm glad that did happen the way it did, because it made me not only the coach, but the person I am now, to understand that at the end of the day, as a young coach, like, you gotta, it's a business at the end of the day. And understand it's a full coaching circle business. And I would tell you to market yourself, get to know people. That's how you get jobs. It's who you know. I know keeping a job is what you know. So as a young coach, know as many coaches as possible, because one day they may need an assistant, or they may need you to step in line for a head job. So who you know is very important. Get to know as many people as possible. Let them know your name. Get yourself out there. Market your own self. Nobody's gonna market you like you are. You're your own brand. What you do for yourself is way more valuable than what somebody else can do for you. So I would just say, just market yourself, be a sponge. Don't think you know it all. That was a head bumper for me, thinking that I know so much, and I knew very little. So year 9, I know way more than what I knew year 1, because I was more of a sponge. I started being a sponge and started being humble about this profession. Just show us some respect and don't think you know us. So I would think that was one of the big points right there.
Well, Coach, look, I appreciate your time, and I'm going to keep following from afar. I'm a fan. I still love them Bearcats now. So I try to keep up with you, and best of luck this year. And maybe in January, we'll get a chance to talk about that league.
Oh, yeah, that's when we'll start getting information for it.
Okay. So, well, I appreciate you, Coach, and good luck to you.
All right, thank you, Coach.